Okay, here we go. Oh, it's being recorded. Welcome to eCommerce 2020 fall semester. I'm Jeff Medeiros, and I'm really happy to be with you today. All right, whatever. Okay, but to finish that point, actually, because I think it's a really good point, and I think that, again, you guys being the next generation of truth tellers, and I'm doing this hackathon. I think I told you I did one last week, and then they invited me to do another one coming up, and it's the it's a hackathon for high school students, which I've never worked with before, so that'll be interesting. But they're to come up with new ideas for a new planned city, a city of the future, and how can they leverage innovation, technology, and I think one of the things I find with this new generation is that you guys are much more, I don't know if altruists is the right word, but you're more open and thoughtful about like everything that's going on, and not so, and this is overly generalized, but generally not so self-serving as I think our generation is, where we're me, and how do I make a buck, and if it hurts the other guy, well, then that's not my problem. You know, survival of the fittest, and the market will figure it out. And which is just, I mean, taken to its nth degree is crap. I mean, you have to be much more conscientious of the total impact of what you're doing, not just financially, but ethically and morally. But you guys tend to be this way. But so you can see, and this is related to this COVID discussion, I think, about like leveraging the online information. If it's transparent, if you know that there's truth in what you're looking at, and it's not some, you know, minister of health who's trying to cover his ass because, you know, he didn't do a good job of providing PPE, or, you know, whatever, you know, or maybe that they have some economic benefit if they keep the government open because they have a bunch of stocks and these different kinds of, you know, travel related businesses that would be negatively impacted. So, you know, you're always suspicious of what, you know, someone's motivation is. And I think that when you get to the facts, the truth, and you know, and this is the difficult part, how do you know that it hasn't been manipulated? Then I think that you get a much more engaged community. And I look forward to this actually in the future. And it's one of the things that's coming out of this hackathon, but it's also one of the things that we've been really pursuing and struggling with. As you know, the United States is going through this little thing called an election, and which is I mean, in some respects, it's a total go rodeo, you know, with misinformation flying all over the place. And
I'm not really sure you can call it an election anymore.
Oh yeah, because it's over, or because it's or no, you would.
It's such a mess.
Such a shit show.
Yeah, pretty much. It's going to be decided by the Supreme Court in the end, anyway.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, we'll wait and see. I don't think so. I think that there's plenty. One of the benefits of our election system is that it's completely diversified and distributed. So there's not like a thing that can grab the whole process and make it behave a particular way. So there could be a Supreme Court engagement on a particular thing, but it's not collective. But that's another story for another class that I don't teach. But over a beer, I'm totally into it.
But there's no alcohol. There's no alcohol drinking right now.
But exactly, not now in this class. Exactly. In fact, if I reach up, there's water. I mean, it's not vodka. It's water in a beer.
But how do we know? Maybe you're just telling us fake news. And
I know it's back to this truth telling. Exactly. We in the future, you'd have sensors that would be able to validate what I was saying.
Exactly.
But soon to come, the Internet of Things. But this thing is actually not lost. And actually, we're going to talk a little bit about it today. There's a technology out there. You guys are familiar with Bitcoin. I'm sure you can't have avoided it now. Maybe you don't participate in buying and selling things using Bitcoin or investing in Bitcoin, but you probably have heard about how that it exists. But what a lot of people aren't aware of is the technology underneath Bitcoin that allows it to exist. And this concept of blockchain, we're not going to go into it in this class. I could later bring a guest speaker in who talks about this, but it's worth the exercise, especially if you're interested in quality of information and integrity of systems. It could be a voting system, it could be an accounting system, it could be the news. Every piece of information, there's this urgency and the importance of validating the originality of that content. And blockchain, without getting into the details, allows us to have an indisputable record of the originality of content. And this, it sounds a little esoteric, and in its execution, it's very technical. But generally speaking, to the layperson, the value proposition that if you knew that the source of everything that you looked at, if you knew the source, and then therefore you could, within complete integrity, you had the confidence and knowledge, where did it come from? Was that some, Russian sponsored agency that had made a post in the United States and it showed up in your Facebook page that said Black Lives Matter, but they posted it in the middle of, some, right-wing, conservative, racist group in Tennessee, for the pure intent of fomenting discourse and creating a fight. And you knew that right away, then you would know that you're being played, and that you're, if you're the racist person in Tennessee anyway, you would know that you're being played. And this capability applies to everything. Let's say you're spending, I don't know if you guys are like bio consumers, where you go to the store and you go to the bio section of the produce section, and you're, for the good of the earth and for good of your body, you don't want something that had, pesticides on it or insecticides. So you're going to spend a little bit more for that. How do you know that produce came from that bio? There's this thing we call greenwashing, where we pretend that, I've got something in the supply chain that's non-bio, and then I take a pile of it out and I package it in some bio package. I put it back on the shelf and I charge you 20% more, and I say, oh yeah, that's bio. And how do you know? And you don't know. So there are many. What if you buy bioenergy? And not bioenergy, but energy that's produced by renewable energies. How do you confirm that? And actually, I got a buddy of mine who runs nano energy here in Prague, and he doesn't run it anymore. He founded it. He's the chairman of the board, but he's got another CEO. But they use blockchain actually to manage the data that tracks all of the energy sources as they sell it. So these are technology, I think, and it's a bit all related, and I think it's in many ways related to this class, and I think it's related to good governance and good government, and how people can have more faith in the people who they choose to run their civil agencies. And I think that when we have a higher degree, because I don't know if you I'm fairly active in politics in the United States, and I get in these constant fights and debates with people about like, well, who gives a shit if I vote? You know, they're like, it doesn't matter. I mean, they're all crooks, and sure, enough of them are crooks, and the United States is no less corrupt than, you know, in some respects, the Russians, and it's just different kinds of corruption and whatever, blah blah. But if we had a lot of, you know, in transparency in our systems, and I think that can be enabled by technology in many ways, then I think we have then we go away from being kind of cynical, like, oh, who gives a shit, to being quite active and interested, because then when we see the bad guys, because it's in the system, the way that we can track how much money they have, where did they get the money, what are they invested in, you know, if they say they're divesting because they're going to take a political position, do they in fact do those things? There's many ways to improve our general society, and I think that that's the great thing about your generation is you seem to me to have this disposition of caring. You're just looking for a way to do it effectively and not be tainted by the historical models and motivations that people have gotten involved in politics, sometimes historically. So I believe it or not, this is related to this class today a little bit. We're going to talk about, let me flip over to some slides on today, and where are we? Give me 1 second here. Zoom. Okay, so today's session, jumping to the third bullet, we're going to talk about process today. So we're actually we went from, you know, where we introduced e-commerce, and that's kind of a big thing. It's not just, you know, selling CDs on the internet. It's not business to consumer. It includes that, of course, and it's not just, and then the next size of the category was the business to business. It's and yet there's this other size of business process, and hopefully by now you've gotten it knocked into your head that you really, e-commerce is all these things. It's really, it's e-business. It's considering the capabilities of the internet and the evolution of technology, and thinking about Moore's law, that everything gets better, faster, cheaper over a very fast pace, that we can kind of do anything that we can imagine. We just have to think about smartly, what are we going to do, and what impact do we anticipate getting from doing that, and then prioritizing which are the most important and valuable things to go do. So, and from a big picture, we've kind of walked through generally what are the different segments. We've talked about all of the different services that are available, you know, infrastructure as a service, software as a service. We've talked about the different approaches to the different markets where we have selling to consumers and what are our considerations there, selling to businesses and what are our considerations there. We've got a lot now built in now, and I think this is where this class becomes a lot more fun or interesting. If you can be interested, I think this is when you start getting most interested anyway. So, and it's now, how do we more fully plug that in? And that's where we're going to focus on your projects, not exclusively, but almost. I mean, that's the priority between now and the rest of the class. And today we're going to talk about specific processes. So we've talked, we like when you think about the value chain of activities, now we're going to zoom in on the detail of how to break that down in a way that makes sense, and then also allows you to articulate externally, okay, this is what I need to do. And then I can consider what e-commerce or internet services might exist to allow me to do that as I create and develop my project. So here's your the midterm results. They're pretty extraordinary. As I shared with you in the Slack feedback, I think this is skewed a little bit. We did that midterm review. You guys came up with most of the questions and the answers, so that might have facilitated an improvement in scores. So that's great. Good for you. Things to consider in your questions or the answers that I would reinforce that I think are, you think about this for your project. So almost everything I push on you now is something you might want to take a note about and say, okay, what am I doing in my project? Or even after this class, what am I doing in my project, my real life project, and am I taking advantage of these things? Because these are not little things. These are, and I don't mean they're complex, I mean they're just hugely impactful, important things. And the first one is this term benchmarking, and it's just a word, and maybe some of you, quite a few of you missed this one. Benchmarking is just simply where I'm going to test this configuration of things with this configuration of things, and it's just it's a necessary concept, because you want to be able to say, well, what's the best way of doing this, or is that way good enough? And you can't just say, you know, because you think it is. I mean, you have to like go do some test. You have to go, okay, I'm going to run if I'm going to build an app, for example, I've got to run that app on a platform that my customer might be using. It could be an iPhone running the latest release of iOS, or maybe it's somebody who's running an older iPhone with an older release of iOS, or it's a Samsung phone that's running a particular distribution of the operating system that and maybe it's older or maybe it's new, but you have to know who your target audience is to find out, well, what those things are that I need to test, and then you benchmark them. You create the environment that you're expecting them to be running, and then you run it on one platform, and you can run it on another platform, and you can test them out and see what the effects are. You could test it for performance, for the speed that they get the content on the screen, or you could test it for accuracy of the information that you capture from them. You can test whatever your objective is, you test that. And this concept is, I'm more generalizing the concept of benchmarking, but in the text, benchmarking was specifically described as testing two different system configurations. The next is databases. I know Shaw came up with this question, and at first I thought it was a little bit, I don't know if it was tricky, or maybe it was a little on the technical side. But then after I was reviewing the answers, I thought, no, actually databases are really important. I mean, I should have maybe been a little more pushy about it, because databases, this is where all the information is kept. So if you have like your contact information, maybe it's your name, your first name, your last name, the phone number, your address, the last things that you bought from me, maybe it's a customer relationship management, a CRM database, and it's got the history of my purchases, or maybe it's got some dialogue from a chat, copied from a chat database of you interacting with my customer support team. The Samsung group hopefully will have a lot of things to say in their project about databases. In fact, all of you will have things to say about databases, because no matter what your business is, you have to think about the business process and where does the information come from? Do you make them type it in every time? Or does it come from my records of something that already exists? Or maybe I can connect to an external resource. Like, don't you love when you go to a, maybe you do, maybe you don't, you go to a website and you have to register, but there's this button, optional button that says register with your Facebook ID or register with your Google account, your Gmail account. I don't know if you guys have that experience, but that, I mean, that saves a ton of time. As long as in the terms and conditions, we're going to talk about that stuff later in this class, but the terms and conditions don't say that they're basically going to suck all your data out of that platform, because, and usually they do this to not scare you. It says at the beginning, I'm only going to take maybe your picture and your name and your email address, basic contact information, and that's all. I'm not going to copy all your friends out of your Facebook profile. Typically, that's what they're doing because they simply are using Facebook as an authentication system. So you just push the button. So here is one example of where you're using a database that is external to help speed up your own process. We're going to talk about this not towards the end of the class when we talk about user interfaces and how to speed up the engagement with your clients. But databases, this concept that if the data exists somewhere, or if it doesn't, you want to capture that data, put it in a database, and never recreate it. Never recreate it. The next topic is strategic alliances. You missed this one. I think you just weren't paying attention. There were limited partnerships and other words that didn't mean anything, but the idea that you have strategic alliances are more important now than ever. You never waste your time or energy creating something that you can partner with if somebody else does something better. A perfect example that probably exists for any of you who might creating new ideas and you're going to have to integrate it into your project solution, it'd be a third-party payment system. This is a perfect example. No monkey on the planet is going to go and write a payment system. You're not going to collect users' Visa card or bank information. You're not doing any of that. The overhead to create that, and the liability around having a payment system is extraordinary. And so, and thanks to people like PayPal and Visa and GoPay and blah, 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 there are a gazillion of them out there now, and they're either really good or they're out of business. And so you would just engage with a third-party payment system as a strategic partnership because they're part of what you're doing in your business. The next was client server versus cloud computing versus anything as a service. The answer was software as a service, and client server is simply that you have a client, like could be your laptop or could be your phone, and then you're connected to a server somewhere that's providing information. It could be like an email server that's feeding your phone the latest emails that came to you. It doesn't come directly to your phone from whoever's sending it to you. It's going from their device to an email server, and then that email server is sending via some routing services to your email address, which gets to a particular server at that email host. Could be Google if it's Gmail. So there's a Gmail server somewhere on the planet in the cloud that's managing that service for you, and then that server sends it down to you. So I've just introduced that cloud is different than client server in that it's the way that it implements client server, that you don't care where that server is, but those are different. So client server is just the idea of a client. I can send something to a server, provide services. Cloud is where you don't know or care where it is. It's a service that is just generally in the cloud. It actually is a particular server in a particular place, but you don't know and you don't care as the end user. And then the last concept is this utility model, where it's everything as a service and you're just paying for what you're using. So I hope you can see that those are different levels. It's conceptually the same thing. Anything as a service, services are in the cloud model and leverage client server architecture. And then the last one was behavior. Most of you, if you missed any points, it was because I wanted you to describe, not simply describe buyer, shopper, browser, which everybody did, thankfully, but it was then, and so what does that mean? What's the importance to you as a business? And I put the funnel model over here because it depending on what kind of behavior it is that's coming to you, you're going to have a different action or activity, or you're going to present things differently. And as an example, the buyer, you're going to present your product or service in a way so they can just buy it. There's no friction. So, and that's on you. It's not on them. It's on them that they want to buy, and you facilitate the buying. If it's a shopper, it's on you that you provide them information about competitive products or complementary products so that they can compare features and benefits, and so they can make a more informed decision. Remember, they're shoppers, they need that information or they're not going to buy. And if you don't provide that information, they're going to go to somebody else's website and maybe they'll end up buying from them. And the last one, the browser, it's not simply that they're just roaming around looking for something, or actually not looking for something, they're just browsing around looking. And so it's on you to have a call to action to say, hey, 20% sleva, come buy me. So this is the importance of, it's not, I'm not asking you, and I never ask you a question just to recite back to me that you know what that word means. It's the application of that word. It's because now you're informed about what can I do as a business person? What should I do as a business person? And then what's the objective of me doing what I'm doing? You'll have many chances. I'm not just reviewing this to go over the midterm. I'm reviewing this because you're going to do it again. You're going to see this in the project. You're going to come back and you're going to what are the strategic alliances you're leveraging to help you develop your idea? If you say, oh, well, I'm going to hire a bunch of engineers to go create this thing, I'm going to be, oh, well, that better be, because that thing doesn't exist anywhere on the planet, and you don't have a better idea. If you have a better idea, yeah, and your USP, your unique selling proposition, is directly tied to that thing you're making, go make it. But otherwise, you should go find a partner to do that and focus all of your energy on the USP. So let me go back for a second. So all of your grades up until now are posted online, to include, as Calvin just reminded us, his class participation grade, which just went up like 2 points right now. This is great. And yoo-hoo! And so go look through that and see if I missed something. I'm not perfect by any regards, but I do try to take notes as I do things. So I tend to be right most of the time. I do make mistakes from time to time, but I'm pretty meticulous about, like, I try to write and capture things as they happen. But I make mistakes. So if you do see something pointed out, the activities, if your activity are not great, well, there are a bunch of activities. So just keep doing the activities as we're going forward. Most of them are binary. You get a 1 or a 0. Either you did it or you didn't. Only some things, if I am looking at them and giving you specific feedback, and I'm expecting you to have a high level of accuracy in that particular thing, like a quiz as an example, then I'll give that a particular weight. I'll grade that thing, but usually it's just, did you do it or didn't you do it? And class participation, that just kind of goes up and down until, we hit the 15th week. So if you don't like where it is, then if you do more, then you'll end up in a better place. If you like where it is, then that's fine. Just keep doing what you're doing. It'll stay the same. Or if you like where it is down here, that's fine too. It's your grade, not mine. All right, so I'm gonna, as a preface for today, it's here we are back with Porter's value chain of activities, and this is, I'm gonna warn you about today. I'm gonna go into a lot of detail about things, and as soon as you find yourself like your eyes glaze over and you feel like you're about to fall asleep because you're like, I have no idea what the hell he's talking about, or that's like too confusing, just back up and generalize things, because that's, and generalize things to your project, because it's only relevant about your project. And what I'm going to get out of this, what you're going to get out of this, is I'm essentially forcing you to apply specifically to your project things in business processes that can be considered, and you can look for e-commerce solutions to apply. That's what today's about. So again, we're going to go through, I'm going to invite you to think about the business, your business, and the activities, the specific activities that make up your business, not all of them, just the most important ones. And then we're going to have an exercise later and walk through how that works for your project. So we're going to use this value chain of activities, and this is just a cute little slide, but you have to have something unique in your idea, and even if it's an existing business that's doing something, your idea has to be some unique approach. And I don't mean unique like clever, I mean unique as in differentiated. I'm doing something that somebody's going to value more than whatever's happening now. So it could be better, faster, cheaper. It could be I'm providing more creative environment. I'm saving babies. I don't know, whatever. There might be something special and unique about what that thing is. So you'll get a chance to experience that. This is the simple introduction to this concept. It's a process at the lowest level. And the idea is that everything that you do, you know what I should do? I should stop for a second. Jeff, I just plowed through a lot of things. I should have stopped after midterm. Any questions about the midterm review? Or I'm not going to ask for you to give me feedback on your grades. I will invite you in Slack or WhatsApp or email or smoke signals, however you want to send me a message about your grades. If you have any things, just send me something, and I'll respond to you. So back to process. This is the simple concept. It's called the IPO model. For those of you who are IT focused, you guys have already, or gals, whoever's in it, have already thought about this idea that to do anything, to add value, and adding value means a lot of different things. Adding value could be in an activity. It could be simply adding two numbers together. And so the inputs are, what are the numbers? And it could be 1 and 2, okay? An input 1 and 2. And then the process is add the numbers. 1 + 2 = 3. I just process that. What's the output? The number 3. That's an IPO model. But here we're applying it to a business process. This is ingredients that are pulled into the system. It could be a cow. It could be lettuce. It could be all the inputs to your McDonald's burger. And then I have a manufacturing process where I'm doing the processing, and whether you like or don't like or think this is ethical or whatever, we're slaughtering, butchering, and processing the meat. And then on the output, I have a burger patty. So
it's not complicated. Every process for business you'll find is actually not, sometimes I worry about using the word complicated. It's difficult. There are a lot of moving pieces, and this is where you're going to find today's activity is going to be quite difficult for you to do, because you get confused and you get thrown off when you're trying to consider something specific and relevant and important in the process, and you get distracted by maybe something else that's not relevant or not important. There's a phrase by some famous TV lawyer that he would always object to the judge, and he would say, "Irrelevant and immaterial, Your Honor," you know, telling whoever he was in a court case against. And I find that to be very valuable. When you're going through this, you can apply that to your project. Is it material? Whatever I'm considering, is it important? Is it impactful on the business that I'm talking about? And is it relevant? Is it totally associated to what it is that I'm doing in the process? So as you're going through this, and this is part of the advice I'm giving you, where you back up and you don't get lost in the details. Of course, you have to think about the details, but you can't get lost in them. You have to think about, well, what are the important inputs to a particular activity, and then what's the output? What's the objective of that activity? So I'm going to introduce you here, and when I'm done in the next few minutes, I'm going to let you go, and you guys are going to do individually. It's going to be a popcorn day. I should have warned you to pop some popcorn. And you're going to watch about 30 minutes of videos, and then we're going to come back, and then we're going to do an activity in class. We're going to do 3.0, which is business process modeling for your project in class today. And you're going to show me it, and the reason you're doing this is because students sometimes get quite confused on this activity. So I at least want to know that before you, and this is your activity assignment for this week also, but before I launch you into the wilderness, I want to see that you're at least on track with the activity. So that's what we're going to do today. So today is really kind of a hands-on class about this. I'm not going to go through a bunch of slides on some new selling to aliens or something on the internet. It's just purely about business process. And most of the information is from current short videos, 5-6 minute videos introducing it. But this is, before you see the video, this is in the video introducing business process notation. And what I want you to do while you're watching this is to think about the logical nature of writing down how you describe a business process. Now, if you were a business analyst, that was your job for a living, and some of you might go on to do this, it's actually a really fun job. It's creative because you've got to go out into a place that you've never, the business that you don't know, and then you've got to interview a lot of people, find out how business is done really, like following somebody around and seeing how they do what they do, and then writing it down on a piece of paper. And that's what essentially what this is a standardized notation, standard just like HTML, but it's a standardized notation on the business side to how to capture how do things get done. Now, what I want you not to worry about is I'm not expecting you, nor do I want you to become a BPN 2.0 expert. What I want you to do is to show me that you know how to think logically. I know you already, I know you, otherwise you wouldn't be here, that you, at some degree, you can think logically, but you're going to do this in this project. And the motivation for me to take a whole class and to impose on you business process modeling is because inside your business idea or any idea, if you can't describe specifically, explicitly, how that work gets done, then you're dead. There's no, you don't, e-commerce is nothing more than leveraging technology to improve business. But if you can't articulate how business is done, then you're dead. You don't know what you're looking for. You would just say, oh, I want to, for example, I want a CRM system, customer relationship management system. And if I were selling it to you, I would say, why? If I were a good salesperson, a bad salesperson would say, sure, how much do you want? And he'd give you every, you know, as much as you could pay for. But actually good salespeople are like, why are you doing that? I want to make sure that you're buying what you need. And there's a really tight connection that when I'm done installing this for you and you're using it, that the business will benefit from using that in a very particular way. And that's the root of being able to do that well, comes from the ability to capture business processes. Okay, so I'm going to dump, I didn't do it yet, but I'm going to, in Slack, I'm going to dump this slide into Slack. And in the slide, for each one of these things, like you can see the link is each one, and they're only like 6 minutes long. They're not too long, but try to, I would highly recommend that you, after this class, you're going to go home and you should watch these videos again, at least to really let it sink into your brain that these concepts like this one, this idea that I have an event and a task and this thing's in the way, data objects, connectors, pools and lanes, this way of describing how we design processes is hugely valuable. And again, not to be perfect about it, but it's allowing you and teaching you how to think in a very pragmatic, logical way. Okay, so these are two different introductory videos that essentially are the same, but they do them a little bit differently. In the first one, they don't talk about pools and swim lanes so much, but in the second one they do. And essentially that is, we manage the business process using those icons that were on the slide that I just showed you, or the one I blew up, where I have an activity and then I have a trigger or an event that prompts an activity, and then I have from that an action that I take, and then I have a particular outcome or an output. And then what this woman in the second video describes is, but I do that typically by function. So I'll probably have like an accounting function or a sales function or customer service function. But they're all related, but I don't want to confuse them. So I use these things called swim lanes so that when I'm designing a system, I can see the difference, and we call those a barrier. I can see the barrier. And Sasha, for an example, for like Samsung, if I'm doing customer service, I'm probably interacting with sales because they have the information, the history of what that client bought from me, and I probably would want to be taking advantage of that historical relationship to improve my ability to provide a higher level of customer service, as an example. And then the other ones are just 4 videos of different environments where they're describing how they're taking advantage of technology. So the first one is, it's a commercial actually, but it's actually well done because it's very specific as to how IBM Supply Chain Business Network uses Watson to provide its supply chain management as a service. So how can a medium-sized business leverage IBM's platform? And not just, I'm not talking about the technology, and you'll see in the commercial, this is exactly why they're doing it and what the benefits are from them doing it. The next one is, this is a fulfillment center. How are they tracking logistics? The next one is Airbnb. This is a little different. This is more about the customer user interface. It's a TED Talk from the founder of Airbnb, and he talks about the importance of this design, and this gets into user experience, UX, that's very important. But it's not just simply that, it's really, it's part of the process. And in his description, it's the customer journey, the relationship between customers, which are two-part. One is the person that's coming to stay in an Airbnb property, and the other is the owner of the Airbnb property. And then the last one is just, it's like managed chaos, you know, a FedEx hub, which looks very similar to the Amazon distribution center here in Prague. It's just, how am I managing millions and millions of packages flowing through? And it's just simply leveraging technology. That's the only way that they can do that at that volume. Okay, so I'm going to let you go, and then we're going to come back together at let's say it's 3. You guys maybe take some 10 minutes or so before you start watching. So that'll be 4. Let's get back together like 4:45. 4:45. Yeah, 4:45.
Sorry, may I ask you, where can we find the link to the video?
Yeah, I'm going to drop that into Slack right now.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I missed it. Thank you.
Okay. So before I drop off, I want to make sure, I'm going to put it under course content. Let's see if I can get there right now. Okay, that should be getting there. Can you see that? No, not yet. I gotta hit the enter key. Okay, can you see that?
Yes, it's visible.
Yeah, so you'll have to download the file though, I think, to be able to get the links. I just opened it in the viewer and it doesn't grab the HTML tags in the viewer, in the Slack viewer. Okay, so you're free. Go away, watch these. Take notes though, and come back and ask me questions, and we'll get together at 45 after, okay? So 16:45. And and one final comment is, so the activity that you're going to have in the class is actually to begin to diagram your own business process. So don't think ahead too much, because you'll confuse yourself. But at least while you're watching these videos, think about the videos and the content of logical structure. Don't think about your whole business, because your brain will blow up. Just think about, this is how I describe logical processes. Okay, so you're free, you're on your own. I'm going to stop video recording. Okay, so first, if I open it up generally, anybody have any questions of what they saw? Okay. So here's the activity, but actually, before I do that, let me stop that a second.
So just to review and restate what you just saw, to make sure that you're clear about it. So they walked through, the first couple of videos showed you how do you do this technically and properly. What I want you in this class to consider is how do you logically describe your business process. And in this activity that I'm about to introduce you to, now we'll go back to that slide. I want each of the teams to map out at a high level. And this is where it's important that you give me your best work at first, because it'll be kind of messy. It's because this is a difficult thing to do. And what makes it difficult is there's so many things in your mind that get confused with what's most important. So, and I'm going to push this really hard on you. So you only have 45 minutes to do this work, 45 minutes to identify what is your business. Well, so first you have this, what's my business concept? And then let me go back up a little bit, because we can put this in the context of the project. In the project, you said, okay, this is my idea. And then you describe specifically in your idea what was unique about that idea that provide a product or a service to your target market, your target customer. And now I'm asking you to consider, in a value chain of activities, what are the most important aspects of your business that relate to creating that unique selling proposition for your target market. And the warning, or the thing that you're going to learn when you go through this exercise right now, is you're going to learn how to try to differentiate what is important and what is material, as I described before, and what is not, what is just like confusing or insignificant details. I'm not looking for you, by the way, to model your entire business. I want you to model the business generally, and then specifically, I want you to zoom in on two particular activities within the business, and then model. By model, I mean use this notation that says this is the input, or this is the trigger to a particular process, and then this is the output of that particular process. And that's very specific. So if you're thinking about that you're providing products to, like in an e-shop, well, you'd have to have the inputs would be the supply of the products. The inputs would be descriptions of the products, maybe pictures of the products, maybe pricing of the product. You might also have separately reviews of those products that would be available to your clients. So you have to think about that process. So I'm not going to spend any more time going through this, but the only other thing I would offer is that this is the first pass at doing this. So try to make sure that you keep it as simple as possible. So I would expect to see a high level, something that would look similar. By the way, I'm intentionally not giving you a template to just fill in the blanks. I want you to be thinking about this for your business, but think in your mind, this is a business, this is a value chain of activities from Porter. This should be the general structure of it. And then specifically for two things, two specific input, process, output activities that I want the details on the inputs, process, and the output defined. So you should go into this a little confused. It's very common and typical. And then from this activity, it'll start to harden, and then I'm going to give you some feedback. So here is your, by the way, there's some descriptions about input, process, and output. Don't read that now, but you can read that later if you're needing some more guidance as to what that means explicitly. Where is that? But this is the activity for the rest of the class. So I want you to spend 45 minutes as a team doing this, and then you don't have to do it in the video as a team unless you can figure out how to do this, but I want at least one person from the team describing the document that you're submitting. So describing to me the process, and then describing why the major activities in the process, why did you include them? And then why did you, and then describing specifically the two input, process, outputs. Why did you choose those? And the reason that you should explain to me is because they're related explicitly to the most important aspects of the overall business that deliver your unique selling proposition. What is special about your idea? I'm intentionally doing this quickly because it'll just force you to filter through and think about what's important and not get lost in the details. So I'm guessing that you have a question for me before I send you off to go do this.
Technically, are you going to split us between rooms here in Zoom, or do you want us to like organize rooms ourselves?
You can do it as you would like, but I would be more than happy to set up breakout rooms
Now for you guys.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
are there any,
it's good.
before I do that, are there any general questions?
So yes, I have a question, please. So when we start our mapping, like the model, do we just like write the activities, like where are we going to get our products or items, and then like the final result? Is that what you need?
Well, can you be, why don't you give from your project, why don't you give me an example?
For example, if you're working for My Food, that's our project. So the first
Mhm.
activity is a procurement. It's the logistics where we are going to get our products from, the fresh ones. So that would be the, I'm just like trying to look at the notes. So that would be the independent trigger. And the activity, it is based on the order, like we're going to cook or do the recipe for our customers. And the final result would be the delivery of our product to the customers.
Right, exactly. So in fact, to what you're describing, this is where you in fact want to keep it at that very high level. And in fact, as a suggestion, you're probably not going to talk about secondary activities because those are not related directly to that business. There's something in your final idea, you might have those, but not for this particular activity. These are the core activities. So you're right, you would have suppliers that would, maybe you make tomato soup, or maybe you make
Yes.
a sandwich and you need bread. So you have to have suppliers. Separately, you would have customers providing orders. And then in operations, you would have to produce those foods. So that's a very high level. That's exactly right. And then specifically as an IPO, and using yours as an example, let's say I'm the cook. So the cook's input would be order from customer. Cook's input would be for each one of those order items, there's specific like a bill of materials, you know, a list of in the recipe, how much of this, how much of this, how much of this. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So it's more like cause and effect, like trigger. All right, I got it. Thank you.
Yeah, input, process, output. Input, process, output. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like I'm pushing you guys to, you know, be like a computer, and I am, because that's how all these systems work. They're essentially, they're systems of pre-programmed processes, and as business people, when we think that way, then we can plug into those things and make them work and have them do work for us.
So just to make sure,
Okay.
by IPO, you don't mean IPO.
No,
I was a bit concerned there at the beginning. I was like, IPO, wait, what?
That's right. That's another class.
Uh,
Okay, you,
I have another
are you
question,
good?
sir, please. Yeah, I have another question, please. So in the individual work, so do you need an individual work from each of the team member to draw the diagram for you, or do you need only one of them?
One per team. Yeah.
One per team,
And by
all
the way,
right, all right.
unless I'm explicit in the future, most of the teamwork that your guys are going to be doing is one per team. Mhm.
So I did not understand the preparation, the video preparation, or the 5-minute preparation video. Do you mean we need to do it now?
Because I want somebody on the team to describe in a video what they're turning in.
So do you want us to send you video file?
Yes. Not send it, put it in Slack.
Are you sure
Okay,
we
so
can send?
This is a
like-
complicated, wait, don't make that more complicated than it is. This is what that would look like. You have a sheet of paper that you drew your process on, and you've submitted that document. Maybe you took a picture of it and loaded it into Slack, and then I'm asking you to blah, 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 describe to me what you've just submitted. That's all. I'm not, don't, you know, have special lighting, don't put your suit on. I'm
Okay, understandable to my end. Thank you.
This would be no different than me hitting record this video and having you talk about it in Slack. I'm just not doing that in Slack. Excuse me, in Zoom.
Sorry, how much activities we should map out for the value chain? How much?
How many?
Yeah, how much? Yeah. Mhm.
That's a function of your business. What are the most important things? Like, I think Abdel had a good, Mark, what's your group?
Yeah, the same as Abdel.
Oh, it's the same. Yeah, so
yeah.
yeah, it's just what are the main activities that are required as a business to prepare and sell food? This is,
Okay.
we're not talking about websites. I'm not talking about, you know, creating later. By the way, maybe this is helpful in context of what we're doing. It's from our business process that then we take the next step and define what kinds of systems we're going to develop, or what kinds of services we're going to connect our systems to, or business partners that we connect to that get us information or content, which was related to the videos you just watched. You could see generally, maybe not specifically to your project, that businesses work together. So if you looked at that guy, the IBM one as an example, the logistics and the relationship in their supply chain management required their leveraging technology to get access to their business partners that would be sending them the raw materials that they needed to do whatever they did. Maybe it's make a sandwich. Cool. All right. Okay, I'll put you in rooms if you're good to go now. Let me do this. Assign manually. Oh, I can let you pick a room. That's pretty cool. How many? I should know this top of my head. Anyone know how many teams we have? Flying Tiger, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 6. So you guys go into your own rooms. I'm going to create 6 rooms and you can go. So I'm just going to tell you, I hope somebody's paying attention. Flying Tiger is team 1, room 1. Hladachki is room 2. Modri Salon is room 3. My Food is room 4. Samsung is room 5. And Shaw Academy is room 6. I hope you got that. And I think now you can go into the rooms. Can you see them?
No. yet.
Not yet.
No, not really.
Sean just got in one. How'd you do that, Sean?
Well, he's in the room now. So.
He's in the room.
Oh, that's right. Once you go in a room, you can't hear me. Demir got in a room.
But you can go to Sean. You can go to Sean and tell him like, how did you do it, so you can return back to the group, like in the main
Okay,
session.
you know what I can, Abdel, what room do you, I'm gonna say your name and you tell me what room you want to go to. Abdel,
Room 4.
boom. Arthur,
Room 1.
oops. Benjamin,
Room 4.
Calvin,
Room 1.
Farouk. What room, Farouk?
Room 3. Can you hear me? Oh, okay.
Got it. Bye. Iskender. Iskender,
Iskander is for it's in my group.
okay. Jonah,
Room 2.
Crystal,
Room 1.
Marek,
4.
Maria,
Room 2.
Nikita,
Room 6.
Sasha,
Room 1.
Jimena,
Room 6.
Umar,
Yeah. Sorry?
what room?
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to, because I disconnected because my Wi-Fi is not good, but I'm trying to, well,
Okay, whatever. What room?
I don't know what,
Lisa,
with Lisa, yeah. We're in the same team.
Lisa, what room?
I don't know. We need a new room.
Oh my God, you're killing me. What team are you on?
Samsung.
You're room 5. Both of you, same?
Yeah,
Okay,
thanks.
no problem. Iskender, are you not in the room? Welcome, Lasha. What team are you on?
Hello, sir. I'm in the room 6 with Nikita and Jimena.
You're in that room, or I need to put you in that room?
No, I'm in that group, and you need to put me in that room, please.
Okay, hang on. I'm sorry, you said room what?
Room 6.
Okay. Good. I think you just accept it and then you go.
Professor, can you please add me to the second group to my people? Sorry, I wasn't at the doctor. I don't hear you. You are muted.
All right, I'll get you to your people.
Yes.
What room are you in?
Second room. They said me second room.
Second room, okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.